Sisters of Slaughter have had a bumpy ride in Warhammer 2, to say the least. They were very good upon release. Went through some nerfs over time, kind of fell out of favor into relative obscurity and downright meme unit at points. Now with the infantry meta, in quotations, although again, as I'm recording this, Creative Assembly has fixed the cavalry beta, so definitely go check that out if you want improved cavalry and general, sort of mechanics as relating to infantry traits, probably even to monstrous infantry too, but we'll need to look at that more in the future. Anyway, Sisters of Slaughter, pretty solid in some matchups I've found these days. Skaven are one that the speed here is really helpful. When you break Skaven units, you can actually chase them off effectively. They'll trade cost effectively into pretty much any Skaven infantry. I'm up against Red Wedding Planner here, my patron, and he's brought what I would consider to be a pretty solid build. He's got Throt the Unclean, Plague Priest on the bell, Poison Wind Mortars, which is getting focused by my two Bolt Throwers, Help Hit Abomination, so plenty of big power tools here, plenty of chaff as well. Technically brought one too many Skaven Slave Spears, but that's not going to end up mattering too much, most likely. Got some Clan Rat Spears as well through the center, and Plague Monks to round things out for a little bit of DPS. Generally, I do like Plague Monks quite a bit against Dark Elves, but Sisters of Slaughter actually do trade well into them because they have high enough melee defense. The poison, you're not going to take as much damage from the Plague Monks. They'll be able to clean through them a little bit faster. Sisters of Slaughter, of course, very low armor, literally 5 armor. Like, it's impossible to have less unless you have 0. They do technically have a missile block chance as well, only 20%, as they have these tiny little arm buckler things. But yeah, 38 weapon strength, pretty decent. Goes up to 42. You can see as this Trial of Blades procs, they get an extra plus 10 melee attack and actually 4 armor piercing damage, so that extra weapon strength is all purely AP up to 15. AP, they're going to, no question, clean out Skaven Slaves. I mean, you would certainly hope so. Meanwhile, over on this far side here, Rakarth coming in, leading my forces. I've got some Dark Riders that came in out of the woods. The camera bugging out a little bit there, my apologies. Repeater crossbows, getting Rat Ogres summoned on them here, getting pushed away. Brought and a lot of tools countercharging there. Yeah, wow, the camera's really bugging out. I gotta be careful today, apparently. The Sisters of Slaughter very quickly are going to proc Murderous Prowess just because so many Skaven Slaves died on that initial engagement. I mean, 2 minutes into the battle, already getting Murderous Prowess is quite nice. That may be an issue in the late game, but nice Burning Head here also does really good damage on these Plague Monks, which had gotten a very nice engagement on those Dread Spears, so nice back and forth. Cavalry engagement definitely not going well for me, but I'm just trying to tie up these resources and at the very least, wear out this Rat Ogre summon, wear out the timer, that is. We've also been debuffing the Help Hit Abomination here with the debuff from Rakarth, so momentarily he was not causing terror, but back to the terrifying ways. I mean, honestly, how do you remove terror from something that actually looks this horrifying? Riddle me that for sure. But anyway, so you can see one unit of Sisters of Slaughter here is basically keeping this entire pocket of Skaven routing more or less by themselves, having racked up 226 kills, mostly on Skaven Slaves, it has to be said, but I mean, the kill totals are going to be pretty significant here. I've also been able to keep my Bolt Throwers safe this whole time. They're having a little bit of a damage spike, also looks like shooting the hill a little bit, that's fine. Been able to keep up consistent DPS on this Help Hit to the point where it's struggling. It's probably going to get some healing procs, hopefully. I mean, I would say hopefully for the Skaven's sake. But definitely doing some really good damage to Rakarth as he gets caught up momentarily between sort of a Throt and a hard place, if you will. Throt and a Help Hit, that's not a great place to be, so he's going to get the heck out of dodge. More summons from the Plague Priest, who himself is quite healthy, fighting on top of the Council Guard for that extra physical resistance will be quite good. But I've still got plenty of infantry left of my own. Sisters of Slaughter going to be collapsing in on this summon, just evaporating them very quickly. They'll also trade even into the Council Guards. They'll trade cost effectively with that Trial of Blades active especially. Let's see what we got here. Looks like the Help Hit Abomination. Will it get a healing proc? Yes, it does. Nice little healing restore there. So it'll continue to fight on, and Rakarth must once again flee. A little bit of a miscast damage on my caster, but worth it to try and get that Overcast Burning Head to do a bunch of damage to the Council Guard, who are just getting bogged down by the Hellabronis. And more Fear Spears, just about out of ammunition on the Bolt Throwers, which is good because I mean, it's not good, but it's good that the hell pit's so low because I'm almost out of ammunition. Whip of Agony here to remove the terror of the hell pit so that the crew doesn't immediately run away. And the melee defense nerf also allows the sorceress to come in, get a hit or two. Crossbow fire routes it off, and I think we've mostly dealt with that. Throt, though, is still quite healthy. A lot of healing cap space left. Also going after Rakarth here as he tries to clean up some infantry on his chariot. Probably a mistake by me to try and separate him there, but yeah, he is in extreme danger, let's say. But one pretty healthy unit of Sisters of Slaughter here. The other one that way overchased is also coming back, possibly. Looks like they're just standing right now. That's fine. We're going to regroup a little bit, try and get Rakarth back to some supporting infantry here. Use this bow fire. Dark Elves, weirdly enough, even though they don't have like very many 360 shooting units outside of Scourge Runners, and I guess Corsair handbow infantry, but they're actually quite good at kiting. Repeater crossbows, not as good as Outriders, but still quite good. And in this type of a situation with no Skaven response fast enough to actually catch them, can more or less just reposition with impunity, and as long as I don't screw up my micro, which is, you know, you can see obviously I am doing that right here by getting Rakarth caught once again by old Throt Boy, and again, just getting them caught. Themselves caught by Throt Boy. You can see that I'm obviously going to make some mistakes with my micro, but even still, I should have enough crossbow fire to deal with what's left. I mean, the bolt throwers are just about out of I said just about out of ammunition earlier, but now they're really like 2 shots, I promise. And the Blight Priest has about 800 HP left, so all's well and good there. Sisters of Slaughter continuing to fall back, but I am a little bit worried about Throt at this point. He eats Rakarth, which is nice. I mean, I want to talk about the cavalry beta. Rakarth is the herald of the cavalry bugs with interactions with infantry, you could say. Actually comes from a bug fix, but that's a story for another day. Throt also going to nab my caster here. Does a really nice, huge attack right there. Definitely guaranteed to shatter, if not fully kill. Looks like she does actually get away there, but yes, completely shattered. So leadership's gone. That's not great. Thankfully, Sisters of Slaughter do have pretty good leadership themselves. So we've got this unit continuing to hold out here. I say holding out, actually helping the bolt thrower crew hold here and finishing off the last few rats of the council guard circled up with their halberds, just getting whipped to death. Very painful. And no doubt, they're going to leave the last couple to the bolt thrower crew and try and help this other bolt thrower crew go after Throt potentially. Maybe bail out some of these repeater crossbows. Trying to get the rest of my infantry that's remaining across the field back, because it's going to be an all-hands effort. I mean, Throt's a fat 4,000 HP still, and obviously is a fat rat in and of himself, so quite dangerous. A little bit more bow fire there, but still has some Skaven Slay Spears hanging around too somehow. Through all of this, these guys have come through, and they're not going to last long, but at the very least provide a little bit of distraction for some of my cavalry. Interrupt them from firing. I mean, they literally rout in like 10 seconds, but hey, maybe they did something. Throt diving in deep now, though. The great thing about Sisters of Slaughter here, poison and melee defense means that in an attrition fight like this, especially against a lower armor target like Throt here, only 45 armor on the Brood Horror, it's not a lot, and Sisters of Slaughter will be able to do consistent DPS. I mean, 39 attack against 50 defense. Not like they have the best hit chance, but obviously in a surround, they're going to do just fine. And literally, I mean, somehow this bolt thrower still has ammunition left. Council Guard actually finished now for real. So we'll fast forward a little bit as Throt eventually gives up mostly just to the bowfire there, but the Sisters of Slaughter being so healthy weighs heavily on the balance of power. I mean, one unit basically untouched, fully ready to go just about in terms of model count. I know the HP is not 100% accurate in these post-battle screens, but one of them actually did pay for themselves too, so that's nice, or just about at least. I mean, damage value-wise, the other two not so much, and very impressive kill totals, which is part of the tactical value here, is being able to clear out that chaff so quickly. Burning Heads help with that as well, obviously. Rakarth does some things, not really a lot. He's mostly a meme pick, but a Chariot can be okay. You know, removing terror from this Hell Pit Abomination actually was useful a handful of times. bolt throwers did some extremely heavy lifting. I mean, Skaven are one of those factions that the missile situation is interesting. If you scale too heavily into missiles against Skaven, and they can bring good counters, but it's sort of whether or not they expect it. Dark Elves, for whatever reason, people tend to think of them more as a rush faction or a kite faction, which definitely they are both of those things, certainly. But for whatever reason, people don't expect bolt throwers from Dark Elves, including myself. Like, I'll play Empire into Dark Elves and suddenly be surprised that they brought a couple bolt throwers, and it kind of ruins my whole plan. But yeah, they both very essential to the win here. But the Sisters of Slaughter kind of providing the mobile backbone to run rampant and keep those chaff units away from the bolt throwers, right? So credit to Red Wedding Planner, though. Definitely played it quite well, all things considered. I mean, the Plague Monks had a pretty tough time. The Poison Wind Mortar is also surprising value considering how quickly I was able to deal with them. Throt staying healthy into the late game was great, but just not quite enough damage on the Sisters of Slaughter. You know, I'd have to think Death Runners, I don't know if they would really trade well because of the melee defense, and that's really the biggest thing, again, to take out of this is the Sisters of Slaughter have quite a bit going for them. They are relatively expensive for an infantry unit, definitely on the higher end, but mobility, poison, this fun Trial of Blades ability here that is only recharging if they are losing in combat, but does activate immediately on getting in combat for 15 seconds, which is a nice little initial damage spike. I mean, they got 20% physical resistance as well to help shrug off some of that damage, so something like a Censer Bear would probably absolutely annihilate them, especially on the charge, given that Censer Bears have a pretty good charge bonus. You know, just drain effects over time. Sisters of Slaughter really don't have a whole lot of HP at all. I mean, 5,600 is quite low for an infantry unit of this cost, even comparing to something like another Elven infantry like Wood Elves, Blade Singers. Blade Singers have substantially more HP, 675 more HP as a unit. It only cost 100 more, so that is something to be aware of, like that attritional style from Skaven. It's one of the reasons why I was keeping them far away as much as possible from the Plague Priest, because the drain from the Bell here will wear through them relatively quickly. Also why I brought Bolt Throwers to prioritize going after Mortars, because again, this damage over time effect is going to be quite strong against Dark Elves in general, but especially an expensive low health infantry like Sisters of Slaughter. So I guess from the Skaven's perspective, for Red Wedding Planner here, you may consider just distributing that value out. Given that you don't have a lot of other long-range tools, you're probably going to be marching to your opponent anyway. You can distribute that value out to these Poison Wind Globadiers. That way, you know, it's a little bit hard for me to get rid of that Poison Wind contact effect, and it is literally the same effect. Yes, you can't apply it at as long a range, but they'll actually do much more DPS up close with their actual missile damage, which is pretty substantial. It's not, I mean, only 36 models, but still a pretty substantial amount of damage. Nice little explosive bit there, too. And, of course, that ridiculous damage over time effect. So maybe it's better to take mortars in that case. I mean, you'd maybe have to cut a couple of other units just to open up that slot, but certainly you could do so. Anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed watching this. If you like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button. Every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again. See you next time.